Hello, my name is Jakub Kalenský and I work in the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab, where we identify, explain and expose disinformation. And for explaining disinformation, we have a brilliant guest because I have the privilege to be joined today by the Vice President of the European Commission for Values and Transparency, Věra Jourová, previously the EU Commissioner for Justice, Consumers and Gender Equality, one of the Time magazine's 100 most influential people of year 2019, and also one of the politicians who gets targeted the most by Czech disinformation outlets. Dear Vice President, welcome.
Hello, thank you very much for inviting me. I'm happy to be here with you.
Delighted to have you with us. You discussed the COVID-related disinformation with us in the Atlantic Council just a few weeks ago. But as I remember from Brussels, you had been interested in disinformation and propaganda even before it became such a popular topic, already at the beginning of the previous commission back in 2014. What attracted you to this topic? Why do you think it's so urgent?
It is urgent because we see today the power of information and the power of disinformation. And in the previous mandate, I was dealing with the illegal content online, which was hate speech and terrorism and extremism. And it was a kind of easier topic because I had a mantra: what is illegal offline has to be also illegal online. We should not make any difference. And for disinformation, it's more difficult to design the plan, how to tackle the problem and how to fight against disinformation, because we have to face the fact that disinformation may be immoral, but it's not illegal. You know, I lived in a communist regime, and so this is for me a very big lesson, not to create something like that. So for me, the freedom of speech is absolute priority. But at the same time, I see that we must not be passive and we must not just leave it like it is now, that the disinformation can influence the way the people live, the people vote. That's why we are going to focus on the protection of elections. And I said something about the power of information. Well, for me, this is the power which makes the people, the informed people, more able to manage their own lives and to live in freedom and to be able of critical thinking. That's the power of information based on facts. I would even say that's the power of the truth. But the power of disinformation is that it is forming or creating easy to manipulate crowd, because disinformation is working with the knowledge of the fears and anxiety of the people, and it is fueling these bad feelings.
If I try to sum it up for you, it is about protecting the freedom of speech, but also about protecting the freedom of information by keeping citizens safe from false information. It actually reminds me of a quote by our famous Czech author Karel Čapek, who said that while violence deprives people of free will, propaganda deprives them of free judgment. Let's move to the most recent document that the EU produced that deals with disinformation, the Communication on Tackling COVID-related Disinformation. What do you consider to be the biggest achievement of this communication? What is the most promising part of it, in your opinion? What could make the biggest difference?
I think the most promising is the title of it, because it is to getting the facts right. And I think that it is it is a core parameter of the document, that we are more focusing on rather bringing facts and arguments and the expert information, rather than somehow minimizing and demoting the fake news and disinformation. It is more about the facts. And there are several new things. First of all, for the first time, we openly named the main producers of disinformation targeted against the EU from abroad. So we mentioned Russia and China, based on very rich evidence which our External Action Service has. Second thing, we made very concrete the to-do list for the platforms. So what we wanted from them was a very, I would say, simple thing, to give the priority space for the trustworthy, reliable information from the Ministries of Health and WHO, and minimizing the impact of disinformation. And it was relatively easy to find such a mechanism, because for COVID crisis, we can speak about some authorities, the bodies which are authorized to provide the people with the trustworthy information, because this is health-related issue. So that's why we wanted this mechanism to work, and we realized that the threat to health is too serious to just leave the disinformation to influence the people's behavior. So we wanted to be active and bring the reliable information to the people. And the third thing, we want the platforms to monthly inform the public about the disinformation campaigns, which is not meant in the sense of informing the public about every little rumor or some I don't know, phantasmagoric ideas which are spread online. It has always been here, and we are not fighting against this kind of fake news, but we are fighting against the well-designed, intentionally designed disinformation, which has the purpose to distract the society and to fuel the anxiety and fear in the society. And this is what we want the platforms to inform the public about who, what is the network, who is the producer, what is the network which is used to spread such disinformation, what is the manipulative technique used, and who are the targets. And we want the platforms to publish these reports in every language, in all the EU member states' languages, because we want all the people to understand what they see when they open Facebook or Google or other systems, that there might be appearance of this disinformation which has been identified as intentionally produced. So I think this is a big step forward towards some more transparency, and this communication on COVID/disinformation is just an intermediary step between today and the end of the year, when we will come with the European Democracy Action Plan.
Is there anything that, if it were only up to you, that you would add to this communication? If it was up to you, is there anything that you would like to add? Do you consider something might be missing?
I am quite satisfied. I wanted this to be understandable. I wanted to have such a communication to explain that we care about the truth and truth matters. As always, these communications, because they do not involve or include the hard legislation and the sanctions, maybe they do not attract so much attention. But I think it was maximum we could have achieved, and we, as I said, this is just one step before other steps to be taken by the end of this year.
I will ask you about one more measure. The President von der Leyen said that those who spread disinformation harm the EU citizens. She said, quote, "Disinformation can cost lives," unquote. What precisely is the EU doing against those actors that use disinformation for their political or economic gain?
We had a very long debate with the platforms and with many experts how to remove the financial incentives for those who want to benefit from this information. Yeah? Because one of the bad features of this information is that it sells better than the facts and truths. We have a lot of evidence showing that. Also, it flies much quicker than the boring truths. and so, but coming back to the financial incentives, we have to work further on the algorithms or against the algorithms which are used in the platforms space to sell the products to consumers. Fair enough, that's the business model which works. The micro-targeting, if it respects the GDPR, it's quite acceptable for selling the products to consumers. But when it comes to selling the politicians to citizens in elections, pre-elections campaign, I think it's totally different story. And here the micro-targeting and the pressure on the people to gather in the bubbles, it's something which is really detrimental for democracy and for the public debate. I sometimes speak about the privatization of the public debate, which is a wrong thing before the elections, especially when the people should have access to different kind of opinions and different kinds of information from different parties, and which compete for the votes of the voters. So we will work further on the model, on the algorithms used in pre-election time. We will look into the possibility of minimizing the impact of the bubbles, and I think that high time to do that, because we had the lessons from the past. We had already the presidential campaign in 2016 and the Brexit referendum when the Cambridge Analytica methodology was used. And it's really a nightmare when you realize that the political marketeers have access to your private data and they can tailor the messaging on your likes and dislikes and fears and preferences. They have you fully, and it's not the right thing to continue, or the right way to continue. I think that we should work towards the digital tax for the EU, because we see a lot of negative things which are now influencing the life of the society in the EU, and we need to do some repairs. We need to invest in critical thinking and in education, in the media literacy. We need to invest in maybe also in the future in fact-checking. But the digital tax would help us to increase the budgets for education, also maybe for culture, to make the people more resilient and more informed, more able to sort out the information and many other things.
Right now, the European Commission has set a higher threshold for the social media platforms, but it seems that it's limited just to the COVID-19 related disinformation. So will that threshold continue to apply on COVID-19 topics and content after this pandemic?
Communication is the first building block of this new commission in the response to disinformation. But we didn't start from the scratch. We had the already mentioned by you the code of practice against disinformation. We had the action plan where we already started quite intensive cooperation with the platforms, and especially the fact-checking was already presented in the previous plans. So now we, after COVID, when the situation is relatively easier, I said it before that in this kind of crisis, you have the authorities which have the information for the people, and you can refer to these authorities, and they should be able to defend their truth. I have always said that to fight against disinformation, it's not about censorship. It's about more attention paid to the truth and to the facts and to the arguments. And each sector which might be affected or attacked by disinformation should be able to proactively deliver the information to the public. Now it is health. Health sector is still a hell of a lot of work ahead, because the vaccination is now at the center of disinformation attacks. Yeah? In Germany, we saw the decrease by 20% of the people who are willing to take the vaccination. Yeah, in the last 2 months. So the sector of health has a plenty of work to defend their trustworthy, reliable facts and information for the people. But we have other sectors. We will have the climate change policies. There will be a lot of disinformation, also related to the prices of food or the prices of cars. You can imagine how easy it will be to fuel the uncertainty among the people in relation to the green policies. In the past and in the future, I am afraid we had and we will have a lot of disinformation against the migration policy and against migrants. We have a lot of it against minorities. And there should be every time somebody who will proactively work to deliver the facts and trustworthy information to the people. We have been very lazy. We are not defending the truth enough.
I couldn't agree more with you.
So this is one feature which will appear, I'm sure, in our plan to encourage the sectors to pay attention to this. But at the same time, in the European Democracy Action Plan, we will not have such luxury of having one authority who will tell the people the facts, because the elections and pre-election campaign, it is always the competition more of opinions than the facts. Yeah, so we will be extremely careful not to come with any rules which will somehow affect the political campaign, the competition of visions and ideas, and we will be extremely careful about giving the platforms more power than they already have. So you cannot expect from me any censorship and any attribution of more tasks for the platforms. Yeah? But that's why we ask the platforms to outsource the fact-checking. Wanted Mark Zuckerberg to be the only arbiter of the truth. Yeah? Unfortunately, he doesn't want it neither. but we have to employ or deploy the capacities of fact-checkers, of professional journalists, of researchers to do the trustworthy fact-checking. And there will be many other things in the European Democracy Action Plan relating to political advertising online. We have to find some balanced rules and many other, probably also new things. Next to that will be we will be working on the Digital Service Act, which will be focusing on the illegal content, and there you can expect some legislation which will increase the responsibility of the platforms. But coming back to the disinformation world, we will be extremely careful not to come with the regulation which could decrease the freedom of speech.
In this COVID-related disinformation, you asked some new tasks from the platforms, like, for example, the monthly reporting. So in case it turns out that this was a good step, can you imagine that you would try and ask the platforms to deliver such monthly reports also to non-COVID related disinformation, also to other disinformation?
Now we want the reports relating to COVID for a very good reason, because we are still in the crisis. There is a little relief, but we have to continue the work on this. But we will also see how the digital media observatory works, because here we are opening a new platform where there should be the updated information about the situation, and it could be a very practical hub of the where several channels of information will be contributing, not only from the side of the platforms, also from the side of the research. We will be contributing there. The fact checkers somehow employed also. So it will be a new system which should start, or has already started its work, and we will see whether it also can work as a sustainable solution for keeping the public informed. So whether there will be some public layer which will guarantee the permanent flow of information for the people. So we have to think over how this increased transparency will be facilitated.
Okay, Ms. Vice President, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.